Do they deserve this death? I wouldn't ask you if they didn't. The Killer is a Peacock original, not to be confused with a Netflix original, the same last name that came out just last year, or the seemingly endless amounts of other movies titled The Killer. Such a creative goddamn title. I wonder what The Killer could be about. It's got to be a happy-go-lucky musical with bouncing baby bunnies and fluffy animals and all kinds of kid-friendly shit where killing happens, because The Killer pretty much indicates you have somebody killing stuff. So as far as titles go, pretty goddamn generic. Speaking of generic, John Woo, who's done a lot of generic shit lately after doing Broken Arrow, Face Off, and some other stuff, John Woo actually understands action. He also decided that I'm going to go back to the well that got me to where I am, because he made a movie back in 1989 called The Killer that I admittedly have not seen, but it was something that basically pushed up his goddamn stats. It's widely regarded as such an iconic action movie in his catalog, and something that showed off his creativity, showed off his understanding of action and character development and all that. So maybe a streaming service will pick that up and we can see the original and we can see what inspired him to do whatever the fuck this was, because let me tell you right now, John Woo, even though he's 77 years old, that's back when people still saw in black and white, you'd still think that he would understand how to make a movie. Evidently, he said, fine, I'll take a paycheck, Peacock, you want to pick this up? Fine, we'll buy that for $1. And we'll get 3 other people involved in the writing process. Why? Because we can't trust one person to write this goddamn thing, write this thing like an AI bot basically self-destructing as the words are pouring out and flowing out and everything. It's like that computer. It's like Tech in Paper Mario and the 1,000-Year Door. Except Tech, even at the end of his goddamn miserable life, was still able to come up with better dialogue than this. That's a deep cut for people that actually know what the fuck I'm talking about. So, you got Brian Helgeland, who directed 42 and A Knight's Tale. So at least he did other stuff that was actually considered good. And also the other 2 writers. Their credits include 10 Cloverfield Lane, that, while wasn't bad, wasn't necessarily all that great, and the live-action Knights of the Zodiac. One of the worst movies of the fucking decade so far. So yeah, it wasn't exactly looking all rosy, but Nathalie Emmanuel, who was in The Invitation, she is admittedly a very attractive, in fact, very gorgeous woman that has a great screen presence, but wasn't able to really carry that movie because that movie was absolutely an abomination against everything related to horror, comedy, and whatever else. Wasn't her fault, the movie is just bad. She plays Z, an assassin that gets wrapped up in a convoluted plot that's simplistic but also completely incomprehensible from a narrative standpoint. She does a job, and a young singer named Jen, played by Diana Silvers, who was in Ma. Remember Ma? Octavia Spencer sinking her teeth into that role, even though the movie sucked, but she was really goddamn good. Yeah, so Diana was in that. She was also in Booksmart, back before we thought Olivia Wilde had just lost her goddamn mind with Don't Worry, Darling. Nevertheless, let's get to the rest of this movie. You have a cop named Say, or C, Two Shining C, Say, I'm just going to say, nothing you can say. We'll take this assassin movie up from the depths of fucking hell, because we're going to burn in the AI light, Say, played by Omar Sy, who was in one of the Jurassic Park movies, one of the more recent ones, and has also been in a few other things. And you also have, kind of like Z's overlord, Finn, played by Sam Worthington. Worthing Finn, as it were. That's about the level of humor you're going to get here. And also the French guy that was in The Core and The Patriot. Cario. That's really all I can say. I can never say his first name right. Take a look at it. It's a bad Scrabble spelling. That being said, we see Z, do what she does. Don't get me wrong. Again, Nathalie, very, very, very beautiful woman. Looks great. Looks absolutely great. She gets to play dress up, and that's admittedly nice, but the thing is after this job goes tits up, and Jen ends up blind, now Z feels a responsibility, told you that's what the humor is going to be, to basically make things right. And then it turns out that she can't really trust anybody, and then spy, assassin stuff keeps happening. If they had cut out the slow-mo in this movie, we would have saved 30 minutes. This is a punishing 125 minutes long, with enough material for maybe 80. Why the Jiminy fuck was this made so goddamn long? This is astonishingly awful. Some of the most terrible CGI I've seen in a while. They couldn't even afford actual birds in some shots. Yeah, they had some slow-mo shots of birds, because that's something that John Woo seemed to love doing, and it was cool, even back with Face Off. Now, not so much. But there was a shootout with Say and his partner, where they were trying to stop this guy named Coco. Open Coco the Clown Room, and there was a slow-mo car crash where this car almost lands on this biker, but the biker's fine. Good shot there. And then it turns out there was some heroin stolen from a guy, and they must solve this mystery before everybody is history, and we get the Killer Tales woohoo. So yeah, it's on Peacock if you want to check it out. It has terrible action. The actors are not given anything good to sink their teeth into. And the third act features some of the dumbest stunts and some of the dumbest shootouts I have seen in fucking years. It's actually almost impressive how inept and bullshit this movie was. It's on Peacock if you want to check it out. 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. So, Z was saved by Finn and raised as an assassin. Also, Finn has some other assassins. There's this guy Gobert, not Rudy Gobert, for any of the NBA fans and anybody still watching this if you get it, who's kind of a boss. There's this deal made with the Saudi prince-like guy for a bunch of heroin stolen off a plane. By the way, it turns out that Sam Worthington Finn actually had something to do with this, i.e. he was the one that set this whole damn thing up, and he has set Z up to fail because Z couldn't finish the job, couldn't even kill off Jen in the hospital when she had drugged her IV drip, but then realized, no, I can't do this. I must have a conscience. This movie, I think, rendered me unconscious at some points. The attack in the club or whatever, where she was using a samurai sword, that might have played better if, well, besides Miss Emmanuel looking incredibly attractive in that black dress. Good grief, she looked great. But yeah, there was violence. Jen hits her head, and that's it. Also, there's these scenes that take place at this church where her and Finn keep meeting, and then she meets Omar Sy's character, who's a cop. She poses as some UN, U.S. representative, whatever, to try and get information, and also to try to kill her, but then she doesn't. She just realizes she has a conscience. And then it turns out that Mr. Omar, the cop, cannot actually trust anybody that he's involved with. And they end up developing a pretty good rapport. They also bond over a crossword puzzle that factors into something a little bit later on. There was one point where she was choking out some guy with some garment, which she choked me out like that. I don't have issues, you have issues. And yeah, the heroin's stolen by Sam Worthington, and he sets everybody up. He has a couple other woman assassins that are not very effective. I mean, one sort of is. One just gets shot easily. These panel sequences, kind of showing it like a comic book, they didn't work in the Hulk when Ang Lee did it. They don't really work in this. I mean, and they didn't work in other stuff. I do remember Silent Night. That movie I thought was pretty goddamn shit, despite being pretty gimmicky. She basically saves Jen. She fakes Jen's death. And Sam Worthington believes her, then doesn't believe her. Gobert ends up getting shot at one point in a hilarious way, and Finn basically says, I stole your heroin. And during a little bit of a church scene just before she says she killed him, or killed her, too many pronouns, pal, sorry Vince McMahon, she sings Some Bright Morning, Jen does, and I will admit Diana Silvers actually can sing pretty well. So, Z confesses to Jen, you remind me of my sister, and I kind of want to atone for my sins, and also you're an innocent bystander in this. It also turns out, though, that Jen was the lookout person for all this drug stuff, because the people that were killed in the club were actually the thieves that stole all the heroin, and Sam Worthington basically wanted to take everybody out so he could have it all for himself. So, yeah, Gobert gets killed, and then there's a part where Z slides down this banner, and then Say tries the same thing, and he does a table bump. Out of nowhere, Cinderella story. And Yeah, it's so bad. It's so bad. They pretty much bond over an interrogation. It isn't really an interrogation. And then we get a shootout in a church where Jen ends up getting inadvertently shot because there's so much shit going on among all these grave sites. Like, seriously, it was like a Boston. It was like a Boston goddamn cemetery with what the shit I was seeing in old Boston, that is. But essentially, where you get the shootout, Jen ends up getting shot, but she's okay. She's going to be totally fine. And Z mentions that she has never been shot. She gets shot during this whole thing. There's a point where people are getting slammed through these church pews, and then Z just walks along, just runs along these goddamn things. If only we could have done that in Mario RPG for the Booster Toadstool Wedding. If you get it, you get it. And then Sam Worthington shoots her, and there was an earlier scene that was that was indicated that her and Say actually come saw actually had a connection before. He got shot, and she actually ended up shooting a guy that shooting the guy that shot him because he was a contract for her. So she basically saved his life, and that's how they know each other and all that. And yeah, that's how we get that story. And then he had said a question to kill time. You know, what size shoes do you wear? So she does the same damn thing with Sam Worthington. What size shoes do you wear? Oh, I think some things are better left, you know, for the afterlife or for the next life. I don't want a next life. And then somehow, say he kicks a gun to her, and she shoots him in the head right before that, saying, "You deserve this death." Boom, and Sam Worthington is dead. And then Jen reunites with her mother that she said saw her as a problem child. And then Jen and Omar Sy are talking on the phone, or Z and him are talking. And the final part of the crossword is reborn. I'm reborn, and yay. I know that name. And that's it. And yeah, don't do a sequel. Please don't do a sequel. The killer is terrible. Whatever. I fucking hate it. I hate it. It's terrible. I do kind of wish that she would have wrapped me in a head scissors like that, but I digress. Look, she looks good. The movie is terrible, though. It is really, really bad. It's every spy action movie cliche you could come up with endless padding from slow-mo. So nevertheless, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. F, by the way, F, just in case you didn't fucking get it. So yeah, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rickland. I'll see you soon.